Welcome to, I think today is called the State of Health, Wellness, Wine, Food. So it's Carol, Sicbaldi, and me, of course, Katarina. So we're going to talk. You're welcome. So we're going to talk about a bit in general today too. I think so. The idea of this live stream is to talk about daily life in Italy, like the true daily life, right?
That's right.
So if anybody has any questions, I know there was a lot of people commenting last time. Feel free, and also if you have, any thoughts about wellness in times of COVID, wine in times of COVID. I think we were going to focus on dry January as a concept and talk a bit about also health and wellness during COVID. So I leave the word to you to kind of get the discussion going.
Yeah, well, Katarina and I have been having sort of a offline discussion about, being healthy in COVID times, and also the concept of dry January, which was actually kind of something that started in the UK, not something that started in America, but in the UK as a kind of a traditional way to start the year. To take January as a way to take a break from alcohol and just not drink alcohol for a month and see how that feels, and then take it from there. If people felt like they generally felt, much healthier and better overall, then they might continue, and others would just sort of take that as a break from alcohol and not drink for a month, and then resume as they wish, or as they had before, in terms of daily habits or weekly habits in terms of drinking alcohol. But I do think that there is something to taking a break from alcohol if you do drink it on a daily basis. It definitely can feel, well, it's definitely a good way to give your liver and kidneys and rest of your body sort of a break. Let's call it a kind of cleansing of sorts, which is not something that Italians talk about, or I would say Europeans talk about in general, because especially here in Italy, wine is something that you drink with lunch, you drink with dinner. So who's talking about cleansing? Like, what's this cleansing thing all about? Like, why do we do that? But I do think that there's some validity in that in general. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, in the beginning I was a bit ironic, but yeah, I think so. I think I perhaps a bit have forgotten my Scandinavian roots in that sense, where we drink a lot, and then it makes sense. But I don't think we really had any dry January that much when I was still living in Sweden. I think it's a concept more used now also, perhaps. And I mean, then it makes sense because, I think the quantities are different, which was also what I was thinking about, that in Italy or in the Mediterranean, I think the quantities are, you drink wine, but you wouldn't drink like 3 bottles of wine a day. If you're not like a hardcore. And even if I drink a lot of wine, but I don't drink every day, so I don't know. So it's probably for me, or in general the people I know, it felt like not so necessary, because you perhaps don't have that much alcohol or wine during a week if you spread it out. But I guess if it's a more in a society where there's more drinking, because I also see like in Anglo-Saxon countries, it's always more discussion about health and wellness for wine professionals also.
Right.
And I saw something today about learning how to spit when you are do wine tastings. But for me, that's basic things. Why would you drink all the wine when you're wine tasting?
Yeah.
That's something you do when you're like, I mean, if you're passionate and you go to wine tasting once, you might drink, all the wine they give you, but then you feel sick for like one day after.
Sure.
But if you work with this, I mean, I don't know, why would you? But I realized that probably it's like a difference in culture and in habits also. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, people who are not wine tasting all the time wouldn't know that spitting is a normal thing, or somebody once asked me if spitting was considered, rude or something. I was like, no, of course not. Why would it be rude? So it's interesting the different perceptions that people have about tasting and spitting or not spitting. But of course, there's always the spitting bowl in the middle of the table. So why would it be there if that wasn't sort of part of
That's true.
or something acceptable? But I will say that I was visiting your country. I was in Stockholm, December 2019, and I went to a really interesting museum in Stockholm. I don't know if you've heard about this museum, but unfortunately, I can't remember the name of it. And I'll have to look it up and send you the link. But it's something like the alcohol museum or the history.
I haven't been there, but I know about it.
It's really, really fascinating. Just sort of the history of alcohol in Sweden and how it's taken its toll on people. And you can tell me the name of those like special stores where you go to buy alcohol. There's a special name for them, and
Sicbaldi, yes.
Right, and there's only so much you can buy, and so it's quite monitored. So I mean, obviously, it's like a totally different experience than what we experience here in Italy in terms of alcohol and the way people approach, I think is quite different.
Yeah, but there's a difference because Swedish people drink a lot. I mean, also Norwegians and Finnish people are even more crazy. But so you would drink like crazy Friday and Saturday, but you don't really drink Monday because it's like very Protestant society. So if you drink Monday to Thursday, you're considered almost like an alcoholic because you wouldn't drink. Like
Right.
When I was here in the beginning, we would go for like aperitivo, and like 20 years ago on a Tuesday, like my brother would be really upset when he heard it because he thought I was becoming an alcoholic or something because I was drinking on a Tuesday. And the whole history behind the monopoly is also like the problem existed in the rural areas and among proletarians because the country was so poor in the early 20th century. So it was kind of a way, to people to not, drink themselves crazy. I mean, also because you had also the vodka made with potatoes. So then there was a need, but today I don't know but of course it's a source of income that Sweden wouldn't be able to survive without. So of course now I guess I'm going to have, if somebody from the monopoly is listening to me now, I guess they're going to get a bit upset. But I mean, it's ideology now. I mean, they can't. So if you go and look at their website, it's very indoctrinal. So they tell the people that if they didn't exist, the Swedes would be all alcoholics, which is not true. Because I mean, I don't think it's true anymore because it's not like we live in the early 20th century when people were poor and they had to move to the cities to find work or kind of live in poor houses when the crops were not good enough. But the state earns they earn a lot of taxes on alcohol, both from the customs, the imports, plus the the added value tax. So I mean, which makes like alcohol in Sweden, it makes it 3 times as expensive as in another country. So,
Exactly.
but yeah, they drink a lot. But I don't think if you not really have a problem, you wouldn't drink every day.
Right. Right. Whereas, I mean, many Italians drink every day, and it's not considered a problem to
Yeah,
have wine at lunch and then wine at dinner as well, right? And
yeah,
some people drink a little bit more, and some people have half a glass or one glass, or you have everything across the board, right?
yeah,
Um, and a lot of it depends on what kind of work you do. I mean, the pensionati, the people retired, maybe are less concerned, and people who are working every day and having to go back to an office are obviously not going to have wine at lunch, or have the time or interest to do that. So you have like a mix of all kinds of things. But I do agree that this concept of like taking a break and dry January is not something that Italians are talking about. It's definitely something that started in the UK, and I think has kind of moved to America. And there's kind of a movement in both the UK and America behind like taking a certain amount of time or a break
yeah.
away from alcohol. Yeah.
No, for sure. But I think there's also a difference because, like in at least in Italy and I guess also in Spain and similar, like wine is considered an alimento, like an aliment, while like in Scandinavian countries and I guess also in Anglo-Saxon countries, wine is still considered only like an alcoholic beverage that I don't know how to say it, but it's not necessarily paired with food.
Right. Right. So wine is more an element of the entire meal here in Italy, and it would be the same in France and other
Yeah,
parts of Europe, where it's definitely an integral part of the meal, and paired especially with like certain dishes or what have you, right?
yeah.
Um,
But I think also because traditionally, no, I mean, like in Rome, in the Roman period, and also before with the Etruscans, I mean, wine was actually something that was part of the daily routine, but it was also a lighter wine because it was kind of almost like a half rosé wine because they didn't. I mean, they didn't have all these processes to make it as a structured red wine as it is today.
or I think it was quite common to add water, right? To add water to the wine.
Yeah, but it was also lighter wines. I mean, they were also very light in color, but also in body, so they were not as strong, I guess. I would say they were probably like under 10% of. I,
Hmm.
I think it was with in the Middle Ages that the winemaking became more sophisticated. If I'm
Right.
not wrong, but I'm not sure.
Right. Right. So I guess the bigger conversation that we thought about talking about tonight was really like beyond dry January and taking a break from drinking wine. Um, a lot of people in the last year in COVID times, during the pandemic, have been I believe thinking about ways to live more healthy. So like in the beginning, last spring in lockdown, I remember you couldn't find flour in the supermarkets because everybody was making bread at home. And this seemed bizarre to me. Like, why was there a shortage of bread? Or it seemed so strange. But you'd go to the supermarket and all the flour on the shelves would be completely missing, and we didn't have a toilet paper issue, but we had we had a problem with flour,
Sure.
and a few other things that were missing. Like you couldn't find yeast. I remember then my boys were like, we want to make pizza and bread too, and because everybody else is making it. So we'd go to the supermarket and we couldn't find yeast or whatever. So there were a couple of things that were missing, and I think people were trying to make more things at home, eat in because you had to. You couldn't eat out in restaurants, and this is kind of still the issue now as we move through 2021 with further sort of lockdown directives or what have you, depending on where you live in Italy and how it plays out. But basically all the restaurants are closed and only open for takeout, and then maybe if things are going really well for a little while, they open up for short periods of time. People are able to go out, but it's so unpredictable, and most people are cooking at home. So my whole point is that the fact that people are cooking more at home, I think, and I don't know if you agree with me, I think people are eating a little bit more healthy as a result of that. Although there is, McDonald's, the new McDonald's opened up a couple of kilometers from me, and there's like a line, out the McDonald's, which like shocks me because we live in Italy, and I think, oh my gosh, I can't believe that there's a line up the street of people going to McDonald's, but I guess they're so desperate for takeout food and fast, something quick after cooking at home for months on end. I don't know. It's bizarre. So there's a little bit of everything, I believe.
But is it younger people or also?
No, these are driving folks. So they've got to be older people. I think they're people with families, and you see it on Saturdays. It's a new McDonald's. It just opened up. We haven't had a McDonald's in a 40-kilometer radius, right, forever. So this is like now it's like the local McDonald's is finally opened up, and I think it's like families lining up in their cars with their kids who are like, woohoo, we've got a McDonald's close by. But it
might also be like something fun to do. I mean,
right. Something.
So if you have kids, they get this kind of meal for children, and
right.
I mean, I went a couple of times in the past to McDonald's here, but mostly when you're taking the train or something. But it was always so bad quality, so I never went back because I was like, oh my god, what are they putting in these hamburgers? I don't even need to know.
Right. No, it's horrible stuff. But I mean, just to say that I think there's a little bit of everything, but mostly I believe people are cooking more at home, eating more healthy. Certainly, there's been a huge increase in people riding bikes, for example. There was a shortage last summer of e-bikes in Italy because people were buying e-bikes like crazy because for the first time they're interested in cycling because there was nothing else to do and no place to go, and they wanted to be active, but maybe they weren't. Maybe they were afraid to get on a bike in Italy, which usually involves climbing some sort of hill. And so,
or a lot of traffic. So
exactly.
Okay, so that's Philip who is here. Sorry, I'm just trying to. So he says that everybody loves a hamburger, so it's not a bad thing except reality. Well, yeah, I actually eat hamburgers. I just don't buy them at McDonald's. I buy them. There's a place just where I live here that makes really good hamburgers, so sometimes I order them. Right. And Eddie is here, which is a friend. He has this Rebel Vino platform where you can talk about food that they just launched in the autumn. So hello, Eddie. And Andre, he says that more healthy, yes. Customers take more better quality food and also the better wines. They can't go outside, so they spend more money for better food at home. And that's the fact in Germany where he is. And it's also the fact for wine. Yeah, I think it's the same here, no? That, or in general, that people spend, welcome Andre, spend more both for wine and food. And also to drink at home. So you would spend more on a bottle, as you can't go to the restaurant. You would spend more on the bottle you buy to have at home. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I think people are splurging a little bit more, maybe on higher quality wines. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a whole mix, but I think in general, people are thinking more about food and spending more time um, organizing food and wine at home. Yeah.
But the only thing I see, at least for me, is like I eat much more. I ate less before because I'm at home. I mean, we've been at home so much, and what do? You eat, or I don't know.
Yeah.
You eat and drink. I mean,
Yeah, so this is a problem, I think, for a lot of people, is that the refrigerator is too close by, and so you just,
yeah.
Go to the refrigerator if a thought comes up that makes you a little bit anxious, or for a lot of people who financially COVID, a lot of times it's just a natural response, to go to the fridge and grab something, or just eat out of, frustration, anxiety, loneliness, or even just slight boredom. I think.
Yeah, boredom, I would say, not having been able to go out that much. Okay, so Philip, yeah, you're right. I should make my own hamburgers, but I'm a bit lazy, so so no, I know it's easy. I've actually made them, but I prefer to somebody else sometimes to make them. I'm not a great person who likes to cook and stuff like that. So, I mean, I know how to do it, but I'm not that into it. So, a lot more people in the US are getting more into farm to table, and that nothing compares to freshness. Yeah, I think that's all over now, that people are getting more. Well, in Italy, it's always been, but I think also in other countries that they're getting back to thinking more about fresh produce, fresh vegetables, fresh whatever, fruit, and
We drink no more at home. We drink no more at home in America, huh?
and we drink more at home. I think he went.
Oh, more at home. Okay, yeah.
No, that's true. That's true. And I think also now, no, that that's been even more, no, during the last year. I think, if I'm right, and also Eddie says, getting to know more about food and appreciate the origins of food. Yeah, I think that's also a general thing. And he says that I think that farm to table has spawned more interest in education about food and drink. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I came across a really interesting website today called the Food Timeline. It's called thefoodtimeline.com, and it's just it's like the origin or the history of almost any food item you can possibly imagine. So, and it dates back to um, millennium before Christ, like just way back, what people were eating, and then beyond into the Middle Ages, all the way up to current day. Like so you can type in like chicken nuggets and get like the history of chicken nuggets or pizza or whatever. And I find myself I go down the rabbit hole in this site because it's so fascinating, and it's so well done. It's like, yeah, that's it. It's really well researched, whoever did all the work for this website. But I think that people are getting more interested, that just like the bread thing that we were talking about, how all people were making bread last spring. People who had never made bread before were making bread, you know. So I think that's
I think
great.
also probably to have something to do while being, because I mean in the spring the lockdown was quite severe, so you couldn't really, other than going to the supermarket like twice a week, it's not that you could do that much. I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And also like just walking, don't you think, Katarina? Like many people were walking a ton in the spring, and I think it's still kind of going on that people feel, well, especially people who are doing smart working and working from home and just feeling like they need to get out and walk.
Well, I mean, up until May, you couldn't really do it because I mean, you
That's
couldn't
right.
go. But yeah, from the summer onwards. But I mean, I always used to walk really a lot. But I don't know. It's like this period in spring with COVID kind of put some sort of block on me because you were sitting at home all the time and you couldn't go more than. I mean, here you couldn't go more than 500 meters from your house.
That's right.
So I mean, it felt like I really put on a lot of weight in the spring, and then it's like it's hard to get back to do this kind of walking again. It's like I don't know, but that might be for me. I don't know. Perhaps if you're in the countryside, you're a bit more motivated to.
Yeah, I had a lot of freedom even during lockdown because where I live is so remote and I could just walk into the woods and nobody knew that I was there. And I remember my boys saying to me, "Oh, you can't even do that, Mama. You shouldn't be walking out at all." I'm like, "Nobody's going to see me. I'm not running into anybody. I'm not. I'm just going into the woods. Bye. I'll be back in 3-4 hours." And I would literally go walking for 3-4 hours. And it was the only thing that I could do to keep my sanity. Otherwise, I would have gone crazy. Yeah.
No, that would have been good. I mean, here, I mean, we actually literally went crazy because also when it opened up and you could start walking again, it was like really crazy because when you walked around here, on the also like in the parks or like on the how do you say by along the rivers. I mean, it's full of all these people who are jogging. I haven't understood, because of course they can jog without the mask, but then it's like they see you from like 20 meters away, but they have to pass by like this, so they kind of pass
Right.
by, it's almost touching you, and you feel like they're breathing like almost in your face, and it's like, okay, I mean, we just came out of COVID. It's not like I went to someone I don't know. It's like just running past me, and so it was always like really difficult because even when you try to walk, like also at the I like to walk very fast, but then you always had to look around you because you never knew who would come, just walk right into your. And
It's true.
I think it's a new problem. I mean, of course, because until a year ago, it wouldn't have been a problem if somebody walked into you. But now it's like, oh my god, this
Yeah.
person without a mask went right into me. So,
Yeah. It's so true. I remember walking to the supermarket because I can walk to a supermarket from my house. And there's a little tiny path like right before getting to the supermarket. And there would be like maybe some older people coming in the other direction. And maybe I didn't have my mask on yet because I was just
yeah.
walking and I wasn't expecting to run into anybody. And then, of course, prepared to put my mask on before going into the supermarket. And they would actually stop on the small path and wait, for me to put my mask on or really get off the path and then allow me to pass by and not even say hello. It was almost like this kind of really strange feeling of alienation, like
Yeah.
you not only are you not going to salute me and say hello, but because I'm like diseased because I don't have the mask on. It was just this really weird feeling. So then, of course, I caught on and was quick to put my mask on the next time I went down that path, just in case I was gonna cross over with somebody. But it was just this really strange feeling of like, oh, who are you? we're also alienated from each other, right? And there's this weird feeling of like people look, behind a mask, but don't say hello. And a very kind of cold suspiciousness.
No, I just asked you, how do you keep in shape during the lockdown? For the people who are listening. No, it's true. I mean, I see both. I mean, I see also people who are really friendly and who have become perhaps a bit more down to earth. Mm-hmm. And then there's these other people who have become more aggressive and, who gets angry for everything that happens.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, like, now I think it's better, but in the beginning, of course, it was hard, and there were people who kind of, I guess, were seeking contact, not thinking about, that other people might be afraid of getting the virus.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think it's a whole mix of people with fear and other people who were not fearful, but really adamant about following the rules. Oh, I'm sure there was some fear involved. And then other people who were just confused about, like, what do you mean we can't kiss anymore? We can't hug and kiss, which is like such a part of Italian culture and way of greeting somebody, is just to do the double kiss and maybe not even hug, but to do the double kiss. And the fact that we couldn't do that anymore is like so awkward. And then months later, I think it was like in the fall, people started doing the thing with the elbow.
Yeah, we did the elbow thing, yeah.
And that was like a solution, but that didn't come till like much later.
No, that's
true. So just really, really strange situation.
But it's also weird because in Italian normally don't shake hands. But I see a lot of people having started to shake hands now, because I think shaking hands is more Nordic. Something you would do, at least in my opinion. But let's see what they say. Yeah, a lot of people miss the interaction and the social contacts, and it's making them frustrated. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, also for older people who, of course, are more sensitive, so they also have to stay in more.
Yeah.
It's not easy because if they can't see people, I mean, their day becomes a bit more longer and a bit more boring, because obviously they are not working and they're not. I mean, a lot of them, I think, is really. I mean, we're all dependent on human contact, but I think older people probably has also a lot of need to stay kind of motivated.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I notice the older women that walk on my street, which is partially dirt road and then partially paved. They're walking with their masks on, and a lot of the younger people who are walking or running are not, but the older people definitely have their mask on. So they're definitely paying attention and wanting to take care of themselves and make sure that they're protected, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're like more in the countryside, so I think it's a bit different there, because I mean, here at least almost everybody has a mask on when they go out. It's very rare that you see someone without.
Right.
But I think, yeah, if you're like more in the countryside where you are, I mean, it is very more isolated there. So I mean, people can be a bit more easygoing about wearing the mask, and which would be nice.
So I think somebody earlier had questioned about like other ways that we're being healthy or taking care of ourselves in during COVID times.
No, I think it was me who wrote the question to people in general.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I asked, like, how they kept healthy during COVID. I think that's the answers were the ones we had before, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you think is important, Carol, that we have kind of lived through now during COVID? So it's the elbow, it's the baking. In your case, walking. I mean, now also here, I mean, we can go out and walk a lot. So also in the red zone in the autumn, you could still go out. So that was good.
Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot on the phone, and you know, I use Zoom and so forth for work and you know, meetings related to work, but I do talk a lot on the phone or WhatsApp or what have you. I think way more than I did pre-COVID. So for me, it's been really important to connect with people, whether they're here, you know, friends here scattered about Italy or friends and family in the States, and other parts of the world, you know, in Europe and so forth, friends around the world. For me, that's really important. I don't know if other people are feeling that way, but for example, I have a couple of really close girlfriends in Bologna where I lived for 10 years, and they'll call me if I haven't called, you know, after a week or 10 days and say, hey, you know, I haven't heard from you in a long while. And before COVID, maybe months would go by and we wouldn't hear from each other because I'd be out on tour and really busy and they'd be really busy, but people are less busy now and counting much more on contact. I think, and at least that's my own personal experience as well.
No, I think so too. I think people probably have slowed down a bit, which I think is also a good thing, because I think before everything was so fast all the time.
Right.
Me too. I mean, I realized that I could do so many things in one day before, and now it's like if I manage to do two things, it's already a lot. And I always think like, no, now it's enough. I don't want to do more today. I'm too fast. But yeah, I mean, in the spring we talked a lot on phone with friends and also video calls on WhatsApp and Zoom. But I must say, like in May there, I was so sick of it. I didn't want because it felt like I spent hours on the phone and I wasn't used to it anymore. So I just got really tired of it. So it's just like, if you want to do a video call like on Zoom, then it's okay. But I don't want to sit on the phone all the time because it's to me it's really tiresome.
Yeah, it can be too much also.
Yeah. But then I think also because it was so new and people were not, you know, used to sitting at home and not having anything to do. I mean, if they did smart working, but you know, when they stopped working, what do they do? Because we couldn't go out.
Right.
Now in the autumn, I mean, yeah, we call, but I think it's more like once a week or something like that you check in. And then, of course, the closest friends we call more often. But now we can also see each other. So,
right,
which is like an improvement.
Yeah, but I guess one thing that we should talk about, because I think this is a big thing. Like, there's a lot of confusion here in Italy since we moved from one color zone to the next color zone, you know, kind of week after week or maybe every 2 week period, and people have kind of lost interest in also like following that and staying up on that, unless you're like a news junkie and you watch the news all the time and you're really kind of on top of it, like my neighbor. But and so she informs me like what's going on because I don't watch the news constantly, but it's so difficult to keep up. And so right now Tuscany is in yellow zone. For those who are asking, and there's this whole color scheme for those of you who are outside of Italy and don't know what we're talking about. But there's, you know, each region or area, you know, within the region is designated color. And so red, of course, is like the worst, and then it goes down to orange and then yellow, and now there's like a white there's actually a white zone, which means there are
But nobody's white yet, so they still have to.
Nobody's white quite yet, but
With white, you would like really be really cool, and you can move around.
right. We're all striving to be white.
White is the new normality.
Right.
But I think we're all in a reinforced yellow because we can't. I mean, if it's not for work, we can't move between the regions yet. So right now we can move within a region, but we can't move
right
in between regions.
Once upon a time, yellow meant that you could then travel between regions, but now yellow just means a whole set of other possibilities, like restaurants can be open until 6 o'clock at night. Means you can go out to eat for lunch, but not for dinner. You can move around from municipality to municipality, but you can't change regions, as Katarina was saying. And I believe like gyms and those types of spaces are still not open.
No, they're closed. They're closed.
Gyms, but hairdressers and estheticians and so forth are open.
Because people need to look good. So you can't close the hairdresser because then people get depressed and they get the gray hair coming out, and it's a nightmare.
It's really tragic. Yeah.
I guess also because if you do smart working, you still have to do work calls, because I remember in April when I did some wine tastings, there were people they had very wild, because probably they hadn't been to the hairdresser for like 3 months or so. Mm-hmm. Because everything was closed, between.
Right. The hairdressers weren't open for, it seemed like forever. It was something like.
I remember I was in one Zoom call and I was thinking like, then I barely recognized them because it had grown so. And I was just like, okay. So I think perhaps it's also because of that, because if you have a work call and you look like crazy, or if you have like problems with gray hairs, then it's not that nice to show yourself on the camera.
So we have the advantage of having like really long hair. We don't have to worry about these things.
And even if I have some gray hairs, it doesn't show because my color is hiding it. So.
Right.
But a lot of friends had this problem, so they were explaining everything to me, that they couldn't go they didn't even want to go on a video call, some of them, between us, because they felt like and I was like, no, but don't worry, it's not a problem. Like, no.
Right. Well, it's very common on Zoom calls to see people with their video off because they feel like they don't look good enough, or they didn't dress properly, or they didn't do their hair before the call, or whatever. So I think there's a lot of that. That's really interesting to think about how that's going to evolve in the future in terms of Zoom etiquette. And already people are talking about like your background and what the lighting, and like I don't have one of those circular lights.
The ring light. I had one. It broke down, so I have to buy a new one. But if you want to do it really professional, yes, I think. But it's nice to be a bit relaxed. Also, I think you don't have to. Everything doesn't have to be so super advanced all the time, I think.
Right.
But the thing, there was also this fashion that came out that people who do Zoom calls, they looked really nice here, and then perhaps they were sitting in their pajama bottoms or in their shorts or something. So they couldn't stand up, they have to sit all the time. So if you need something, you can't get up because you might have.
Have you ever noticed like how everybody seems to have like a library behind them, like shelves of books? I always find that really interesting. Like everybody's got a library behind them, like to make it look like they're reading a lot or something. I always thought
probably might be that they think that they look more serious if they have a library.
Yeah.
More well educated, more intellectual. I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly.
I still have the Christmas stuff. I haven't really put it all away yet. So
Hmm.
well, it's just around the bottle, so I don't have the whole house decorated. But
Right. Your Christmas tree is sort of like a collection of wine bottles, right?
bottles, yeah. Because I wanted to buy a Christmas tree, but then a friend of mine said, "No, but why don't you decorate all your bottles instead?" I was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea, actually." So I put all this glitter around the bottles, which was yeah, because a lot of people have sent a lot of bottles in this month, so I still have a lot of things to taste to write about, but I take it like in phases.
I see producers who are sending you bottles of wine too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So December was really crazy. Then everybody, I mean, already December, a lot of people are sending gifts, but uh, of course, with COVID and Christmas, there was a lot of packages. It felt like every morning somebody, a courier was ringing the doorbell.
Wow. Well, that's a positive thing. That's a good thing.
That's a nice thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the more reason to do dry January because with all those bottles you received in December, you were, you were probably really needing a dry January.
Yeah. I haven't really been drinking much in January. We had a really party Saturday, last Saturday, after our call. We went to this aperitivo with a friend at a friend's place, and it turned into a bit of a lot of wine. So since then, I haven't really been drinking.
Mm, yeah.
But for the rest, yeah. So I'm fairly moderate in my consumption. So anything else we want to? I think there's not that many people on anymore. I think they kind of tuned out.
Okay.
Anything else we should mention before we
No, I
tune
think
out?
we covered it all. Health, wellness, wine, and food. I mean, we kind of talked about those things we wanted to talk about, and I think we spoke to really the experience of what it's like to be here in Italy, what it's been like. Um, I can't think of any other ways that people are like sort of doing wellness because there are a lot of people in Italy that go to spas, for example. They go to the spas, to get their steam whatever and the sauna and blah blah. And they haven't been able to do that. And if you're not active, like you're not into walking or cycling, I wonder about those people sometimes, the people who are really more spa oriented, like what they're doing to
I
prepare
don't
them.
know.
But
No, but I think a lot of people are walking now. I mean, I think a lot more
yeah,
people go out walking. I think more people go biking also, as you said before, to not take the buses or the whatever.
right.
Um, so yeah, so what do we want to talk about next? I think before we end it, we should kind of ask if people have anything they wish us to talk about. We can do that. So, any suggestions? Let's see if we put out suggestions for other topics, or we will just decide what we think is interesting.
Yeah, we could toss some ideas around. Um,
Yeah. Anyway, so also I think for those who will watch the replay, if you have also any ideas for the time and the day, I mean, you can write us so we can figure out which day is best and which time is best.
mhm.
Okay, so should we
Yeah, we'll sign
say
off.
have a nice weekend? See you
Yeah,
next week.
have a nice weekend and see you next Friday. Yeah.
Okay, ciao.